sometimes you wind up in a job or in a career or in an industry, and you just kind of feel like you don't belong, or you're turning convention on its head, or you're blasting through a glass ceiling. And you do that really, really, really successfully. So come join us as we talk about this very topic with my good friend, Julie Brandle from Metis Construction.
Welcome to the Value Bridge podcast by Aegis 360 Consulting. Our goal is to connect visionary leaders with down-to-earth insights to bridge the gap between leadership, culture, and strategy. While we learn, we will laugh and offer a roadmap for navigating the complex world of business. Enjoy and learn with guests that have been there and done that in uncovering strategies, triumphs, and challenges.
Thanks for having me today.
Hey, I'm glad you're here.
You bet.
Now, we start off our podcast with a question.
Oh, boy.
So here you go, Julie. You ready?
I want there to be a disclaimer or a waiver of some kind that I did not receive any of these questions in advance.
You did not. You did not. I'll just put that out there. Right? This is 100%. I want to know, I want you to tell our audience what was the most embarrassing moment in your life.
Oh, gosh, there's so many. There literally are so many.
Yeah.
And that is my biggest fear, is to be embarrassed or to be humiliated. And so that's why I ask a lot of questions when I have to do things like this. Like, will you come on my podcast? And I thought it was audio and it's video.
So this very well could be it.
This could be it when I'm not dressed for this professional thing. And then I guess I'll just determine at the end if it's professional or not.
Well, see, you're fitting right in, right out of the gate.
Awesome.
You're fitting in right out of the gate.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Embarrassing.
So you, yeah.
There's just too many to mention.
Just a ton.
I can laugh at myself about it because we're all human, and it probably happens every day, if not once a week, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a lesson there is don't take yourself too serious.
You can't. You really can't. If you can't laugh at yourself in any part of your life, whether it's personal or professional, then you need to rethink some things for sure.
Yeah. Because it's probably not so important.
It's never so important.
It really isn't, is it?
No. Is it really life or death? If it is, well, then of course it should be a very, very serious thing. Yeah. But most things aren't.
Most things aren't.
No.
So you've had this great career in construction, and I want to know how in the heck you got there. What did you wake up one morning and see a hammer and go, "Yep, that's me"?
No way.
Did you dream about this when you were 16? I'm going to own a construction company.
One time I did like a panel discussion. It was really early on in Metis, and I think it was for the Aurora Chamber. It was like maybe a couple years in. And someone from the audience said, "Did you always want to be in construction?" I'm like, what are you talking about? Right. Who would really pick? No, I'm kidding. And I said, you know what? And people have heard me say this before. And I did a really great podcast with Steve Millard from the Greater Akron Chamber. And I probably said it on there as my mom did not take away my Easy Bake Oven and give me a power drill and say, "Go get him, Tiger," No. Right. I think it just came out of a little bit of desperation, a whole lot of recession, and we needed jobs in the 2008
nice
time frame.
Oh.
And it wasn't even what I went to school for. My history was not in construction. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a background. My family was not in construction. It was just something we needed to do at the time. And we figured we'd start this small facilities maintenance company and have jobs for the recession because I was working for a home builder that went out of business. Mm-hmm. And we figured if it didn't work out, we were marketable people and we would find jobs somewhere else, maybe after the recession, hopefully. And here we are literally 15 years later this summer and we're still in business. So that's good.
That is good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
But definitely not all me. Not for sure.
Yeah. Well, it never is all just one person. No. In any of these
team,
right?
A great history of team, awesome partners, fabulous husband. I mean, fantastic just an entire group of people that make it happen.
Yeah. So you and I talked a while back, and you just happened to casually make this comment to me, which I made a mental note. She's coming on the podcast.
Josh, get this ready for a bleeper, because then we don't know what it's going to be.
You made a comment about you'll sometimes walk into a new client or go to do an estimation or look at a job, and people will look over your shoulder waiting for the man to come in.
Yes.
So unpack that a little bit and that experience and kind of how you handle it and what you do with it.
People have heard me say this before, and it's gotten better. Don't get me wrong. People have gotten to know me in this industry. I've gotten to know owners, representatives, and architects in this industry, and it has gotten better. But I still think there's a sense that I may not know as much as either I think I know or I really do know, or there's an expectation or a stereotype to construction automatically that assumes that there will be a male involved in a walkthrough or an estimate or a bid, or something like that, where when I show up on scene and I'm there to do the walkthrough and take the measurements and learn about the scope of work and take the photos and just do all of that. There has been on more than one occasion, and sometimes even now to this day, that I get there and they're like, "So who'd you bring with you?" I'm like, "I don't know. Who's back there?" "No one. I didn't bring anyone. Is that okay?" Like, you almost feel like, "Oh, wow, should I have brought someone?" Then you start almost second guessing yourself for a little bit, because you think you're fine. You think you're confident in the fact that you know exactly what you're doing. You know how to do this. This is your job. This is your company. You should know what you're doing. But then from that split second, you're like, wow, are they second guessing me? Like, are they just in that unconscious bias that they think there should be a man there? Like, what is it? And then in that, as quick as it comes, it's gone. It's like, hey, wait a minute. I don't really need, if it's difficult tasks, like difficult project or something like that, of course I'm going to say, hey, can someone go along that's done this type of job before or something like that? But for the most part, I think I can handle it.
So has anybody ever come right out and challenged the fact that and been just bold about it and said, wait a minute, you're a woman. What are you doing here talking to me about it? Oh, really? They've just been that brazen about it.
Oh, for sure.
I just can't connect with that mentally. What?
Especially early on, like really early on in this business, it was very unusual to go to a walkthrough where there would be 3, 4, 6 contractors there to do the walkthrough, bigger projects, and no one would talk to each other. Like, it was silent. Like, no one would be like, hi, how's it going? How are your kids? Blah, blah, blah. And it was silent. And I came back from the first few and I would say to Stephen, I would be like, why doesn't anyone talk to each other? These are the same people you see over and over. Why wouldn't you get to know each other? Why? He's like, they just don't. And I said, okay, I'm not good with that. We're going to see each other all the time.
Sure.
There's enough work for everyone.
Yeah.
Especially now, gosh.
Right.
And then I started doing that. I started saying hi to people and shaking their hands. And that was very uncomfortable for some people.
Oh, wow.
Who is this chick and what does she want from me?
Why is she talking to me?
Why is she talking to me? Maybe if I don't look at her, she won't talk to me.
Oh, Julie, that's hysterical.
It does get kind of funny because you kind of have to push it. Why wouldn't you just be nice and wish everyone well in this business? And like I said, there is enough work and everyone can have a piece of it, Any
other construction companies that you bid against or work side by side or adjacent to that have women in it in leadership positions?
Plenty of them.
Okay.
They might not be owners, but oftentimes project managers, estimating teams, job superintendents, less often. But there's other commercial construction companies with women owners and internal
architects.
I think having in-house architects is not an unusual thing, but less seen often.
Oh, okay.
So for Elizabeth to be on our team
Right.
in-house, and for us to even have an in-house architectural team is unusual in the construction industry. It offers our clients one-stop shopping. They can come in with a project idea and take it from start to finish. We have 2 licensed architects. We have an interior design intern and then a graduate student architect as well. So we have a full team.
So you just brought up something interesting, and that's intern. Do you actively go out and
as many as we can?
Can you really?
I mean, we're right, like literally at the end of the Esplanade at Kent State University.
Well, sure.
It has a world-renowned architectural department and majors, and as well as construction management majors. And I serve on that board at the construction management department at Kent State. And we can have those added to our team for estimating and project management assisting and interns for interior design and architecture. And they just add that youth and new ideas and extra hands on projects, and it adds to our team, and it's fun.
And so the interns that come in, especially the ones that are female, do they probably not experienced what you have because of the age difference. Do they talk about the fact they're in a male dom, or do they not care, or does it not
I don't think
connect
they know
with
yet.
this group, or do they just not know?
Well, I don't think personally they've experienced it yet because they haven't been in a position, in a role, in a job. But I've had the great fortune of speaking on campus to construction management majors and to students during Women in Construction Week and different programming where I can go and speak to, I call them kids because they're my daughter's age or younger, really. Yeah. And so I'm old enough to be their mom or older, really. And it's so fun. And it's fun to talk to them about the industry, but it's even more fun to talk to them about even other things, like life in general. Sure, they want to know about soft skills and tell me about the industry and tell me about the roles in your company and what those jobs do and tell me about what's happening in the economy and how it affects construction and all of that. That's important. But some of the questions that you get are even more surprising, like, how do you manage work-life balance? Or what do you do to relax after a stressful day? Or what would you tell a college student? What would be your top 3 pieces of advice? Or, the first time I ever heard that, I was like, what? Like, I didn't ever expect that. I thought they wanted to know about work.
Right.
And so I kind of did get to put my mom hat on because, a lot of these kids are away from home. Sure. And, I did give them 3 pieces of advice. One would be to get off of their phones and get out and get, out with their friends and do social things. And 2 would be to spend more time outside and hike and be in the sun and get some fresh air. And then the 3rd would be to call their moms more. And that goes with dads too. But I just think kids sometimes are disconnected from their families when they're away from school. And I'm really blessed with a good relationship with my daughter. And she calls a lot, luckily, and did so when she was at school. So we're close that way. And so I always hope the kids will stay in contact with their families.
Right. That's
so hopefully
fantastic.
there's moms of students in Kent State thanking me.
So let's talk a little bit about, I guess, the glass ceiling as a general topic, maybe not specific to the construction industry.
Oh, sure.
What are you seeing? You're very involved with the business community in our area, so you're talking to a lot of people. What are you seeing and hearing out there as a kind of a general conversation around not only women in the workplace, but others that are not normally in a job role that looks like they should be there? They're breaking stereotypes, they're changing the norm, they're doing all these sorts of things.
Well, I think with all of the the polymer cluster work in the Greater Akron Chamber and the Akron region. I'm getting to meet so many women in that space and that STEM, STEM environment and the science, technology, engineering, and math. Met some fabulous young women working at Bridgestone, Firestone in this employee resource group. We had a conference call one day. They wanted to know about having these types of conversations in-house with their group. And I was just so impressed. They're having conversations about encouraging each other, which is, from my age standpoint, that was unheard of back then. Like when I was joining up with the workforce, so to speak, my first job was at Stan Hewitt. And I had a fabulous boss. Gary Hartman was my first real boss at a real job following getting out of college. And
as my daughter would call it, a big kid job.
My big kid job at Stan Hewitt. And I was an assistant in the development department. And he was the kind of boss was like, did you go out in the gardens for a walk today? And, it's a beautiful place, And, but you worked and you went home. Like there wasn't networking. There wasn't like women's groups or things like that to encourage women in working and things like that. I think we had a bowling league from Stan Hewitt because we were all around the same young age, But besides that, it wasn't a lot of interaction outside of that. And then I worked at the Salvation Army in development after that. And there was a little bit maybe more social in addition to work, but there wasn't networking like they have now. And so I really appreciate the fact that they have that available to young people as they're entering into the workforce. And there's a way for them to learn about mentorship and sponsorship and not from just other women, but men in their industries, whatever those industries might be, but especially in the STEM-related industries, because there's some uncharted territory there, some jobs that maybe have traditionally been held by men and now are being held by women and what that looks like and encouraging those opportunities. And, the Girl Scouts is really, really focusing on encouraging STEM in young women. And I think that has just been such a fabulous journey to watch because so many girls think at such a young age that they get to like that middle school time and there's so many other distractions, there's sports and there's boys and if they don't stay, encouraged, they think they can't do it. And so traditionally, I think in schools, we were always told, or maybe not told it out loud, but encouraged in a way to think that maybe those types of jobs weren't for women. And so you were directed down a different path or maybe encouraged to go into journalism or teaching or nursing things like that.
Right, exactly.
All of things that are very responsible, respectable jobs. But I don't think anyone ever said, well, no one would have said it to me because I'm terrible at math, but no one said, hey, Julie, why don't you think about going into chemistry or, well, like I said, they wouldn't have done that, but maybe they would have done it to other people.
Well, now we know a little secret, don't we?
Yeah, it's not a secret. I'm never going to be good at math or chemistry for that
matter. Yeah.
No, not going to happen.
Yeah. So, what you talked about the 3 pieces of advice that you gave, and I love all those. What about a young woman who's in construction or in a STEM-related field or in a as a pilot? I mean, there's I think I saw 3% of all professional pilots are women. It's really a low number. It's an incredibly low number. 7%
of all construction or people in the construction industry. Now that could be office, it could be field, it could be, it doesn't really differentiate that number, but 7% are women in that industry. So what would I say if someone wanted to be in the construction industry that was female? I think you have to, and this is traditional in male-dominated industries, is that you have to set yourself up to work harder and set yourself aside or apart from your peers to let people know that you're serious about the industry, whether it be engineering or construction or anything that's maybe not traditionally a job that we would be considered for, we being female. I think that, so you have to work a little bit harder. You have to want to maybe find someone in your field who will mentor you. And it doesn't have to be a female. It could be a male person who is in your industry that would want to take you under their wing and show you the ropes. Know your stuff. Go in and be prepared and educate yourself in the area that you want to be working in. Because if you know what you're talking about and you're prepared, who cares?
Right.
You know,
Nobody
who cares if you're a girl or not? But I think those would be the top things I would say.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. So we're about halfway through.
Okay.
So now's time for a question that is sort of related to your business, but not on topic. So I was on your website.
Oh, boy.
And I'm going to give you a number, and I want you to see if you know what number I'm talking about.
Okay.
70. It's right on your website.
70.
And given what it is, it might be low by now.
Oh, I'm sure it's low by now because we probably need an update.
Absolutely. Everyone needs an update to their website.
We do have a person helping us, though, with an update right now.
You want me to help you out?
Yes.
The number of Dollar General stores that you've built.
Gosh, we do have an update. We're 100 less than that's 100 less than what we're up to.
You're kidding.
No. And there's nothing wrong with it.
There is nothing wrong with it.
We love our developer clients who let us partner with them on those.
Absolutely.
We have built Dollar Generals in cities, in suburban areas, in the middle of nowhere.
Have you built more of those than any of your other?
For a brand.
For a brand.
Correct.
Yeah.
For a brand. But we do a lot of branded work. So we do branded work for retail banking. We do branded work for like McAllister's Deli and Firestone Auto Care. And we mentioned Dollar General, but places like we've done a lot of work for the Girl Scouts. We've done work for Boy Scouts. We've done multiple projects for a number of clients. But I would say yes, for out of branded work for locations, even though they're not all for like a corporate, they're for different developers who build them.
Right.
You are correct. We need to update our website.
You do. And
I've received every single meme about every Dollar General. I was on a cruise with a friend and someone sent me one that was like on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean that said, "Did you build this one?" It never gets old.
It doesn't. But you got to be known for something, right?
I don't care. I love it.
It's great. Yeah, no, it's awesome.
It was, I think we've been doing it about 7 years. About 7 years. We've been building Dollar Generals, and they want to be your corner store, like your corner general store.
Sure.
And they're well on their way, and it's a great model that they are building all over the United States.
It really is.
And that we've gone on the road with them. They've taken us to other states. We've built Dollar Generals in Washington State, Idaho, Illinois, Missouri. I think we did a renovation in maybe Tennessee. No, not Tennessee. New York. Yeah.
What are you seeing in construction in the way of sustainability in both products and processes? And I mean, this is a huge topic for a lot of really large companies. Are they starting to come at you and say, we want this, or we want this, or we want this, or is it not entered into that industry quite yet?
I have been a certified green building professional for a decade.
Okay.
And we have been talking about green building for multiple decades. and lead certification and all those things.
Right. It's been around a long time.
It has been around a long time. And it is a great thing to do. And I'm a Girl Scout my whole life. And I am always pro-environment in terms of if there was ways that we could protect it. But of course, I love construction and development.
Yeah.
So there are ways to balance that. I would say that people like to talk about it and they like to ask about it. But there are cost restrictions to it.
Sure.
There are things that are expensive. Now, there are things that we can do to that aren't maybe as expensive. There's products, responsible products. There are ways to recycle on a job site and reduce garbage and things like that. But there are the ways that people want to put into their building, those can be very expensive. So if we use LED lights, which you're not going to put anything into a new building that isn't right now.
Right.
And a lot of renovations are also putting LED lights into their spaces to cut costs on electric. That in and of itself is huge savings.
Right.
There are flooring materials that are made from recycled products.
Certainly windows have come a long way on the
for sure.
energy side.
Any of the energy efficiency.
Some of the stuff you can't buy that's not sustainable.
Yeah, and they manage themselves. The product makers manage themselves.
Right.
And then, of course, we don't build homes, but in the first part of my construction career, I'd say I worked for a home builder for almost 8 years, and then real estate I've been doing for 29 years. And there's always been talk like, are we building a house that's too tight? Because the products are so good. What do we do with circulation of air and things like that? So that would be another conversation for you with a better professional than I that can talk to you about those type of things. But sometimes the costs are limiting.
Yeah. So let me kind of shift over to the leadership side of the conversation for a minute. Talk to me about when you started in this business, and you're an owner, so we have this swath of people that work for you at one level or another. What do you wish you had known or done as a leader early on that you now know? So it's the message to Julie when she was first a leader in this business that, good God, I wish I'd done this because, Bob might still be working for me, or I would have done this better. I mean, because I think sometimes leadership and parenting are the same. It's the great experiment. We don't have a clue what we're doing until we're there.
Oh, goodness. Well, like I said, we kind of had to start our business and we didn't necessarily have all of our systems in place. So people often ask me about starting a business. Like people that are thinking about being entrepreneurs and they want to open a business and they're like, I want to start a business. I want to have my own hours and I want to make a ton of money. And I'm like, well, it's been 15 years and I'll let you know what that looks like.
I still don't have my own hours.
I don't have my own hours and I'm not making a ton of money. So I'll let you know when it happens. But I would say when you're preparing to do all of that, know that that's not always the case because you're a business owner and that your clients pretty much will tell you what your hours are.
Right.
You want to take care of them. So that's your hours. Yep. And then your systems, like what's your accounting system and what's your, what is your paperwork system and what are your contract system, all of the systems, we had systems then that are not in place anymore. Are they better? Are they different? Are they more construction related? What kind of insurance did we have 15 years ago? We don't have that insurance carrier anymore because they didn't cover the sizes or the projects that we had or the size company that we grew to be or things like that. So some of those things change over time, right? So I would say there's a lot of things. Sorry, make a lot of faces. I think you have to think about things you don't think you're going to have to think about. And that seems like a really simplistic directive. But think all the worst case scenarios that you could possibly imagine and plan for them in the beginning. And then maybe you'll be ready. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could even think about all the things that you could possibly have happen in your life.
After D-Day, Dwight Eisenhower, who orchestrated and led the whole thing, said that plans are nothing, planning is everything. And in the military, we always had a moniker that said, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And in business, no plan survives first contact with the customer.
Sure.
Right? So I have converted all that into change without a plan is nothing more than chaos.
I can see that.
So have the plan and be willing to change it. But if you don't have a plan, and you know, I've been at it 24 years, so I get the same kind of questions in my industry of how do I start and what do I do?
What do I do?
And I just tell people, you know, have a strong plan and just understand that it's going to be useless about 10 minutes after you start. But without that, it's total chaos.
Well, and it's good to be flexible.
Correct.
And adaptable.
Right.
Because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, who knew that how many years ago someone was going to say on that afternoon, everything's closing in Ohio and construction, you're an essential business, so you're staying open.
Yeah.
And that the next 3 hours, Stephen has the emergency phone number. So he's answering the phone calls from employees who are like, yay, I don't have to work. Yes, you do, because we're an essential business.
Right.
And customers and clients who are saying, you're going to keep working on my project, right? Because you're still open. Yes, we are, because we're an essential business.
Right.
And so whoever thought like that was going to happen, and all the things that affected construction companies during that time that were utterly ridiculous in terms of everyone has to wash the tools in between using them. And we have to have hand washing stations on every site now instead of just whatever you normally do, and hand sanitizer and then hand washing sites that used to be, or like the, you know, like these little portable sinks.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they used to be, let's say, $60, $70 to rent, and suddenly they were $300 to rent, and then your job costs went up, and then like people weren't thinking about, oh gosh, like, okay, here are all your new rules, but now this is all the costs that now are going to be affected, and those aren't built into your job costs for your cost of your construction project and your contract, and no one's going to say, oh, sure, just pass those along to me and let me pay them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me
Don't worry.
Let me help you with that.
Yeah, let me help you with that. No, they didn't. They go, your problem.
Yeah, and it was all of our problems. You know, we were dealing with such an unusual time, but I think you're just doing the best you can. And I think we were all just doing the best we could. And so here we are on the other side of it, so to speak, for the most part.
For the most part.
And all the things we learned from that. And you basically learn that you have to be flexible and you have to adapt, and you just never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And that's sometimes the fun of it.
Is that easy for you or hard to make these last minute changes? Are you okay with that, or are you the kind of person that says, oh boy?
I think there's a mixture of that for everyone. I talk about being a Girl Scout because I think it tells you something about my character, that I am easy to get along with. I'm flexible in my personality and my work ethic, and whatever needs to get done, it gets done. I work in my job like that. If someone calls and says, the cleaning company didn't show up, I need help, I'm going to go and clean. And it's happened. And it will happen, and I will do it. It's just what you do. But when the pandemic happened, I'm not going to lie, it was stressful. Like, I have to keep these 50, 60 people working. Like, how do we keep these people? We didn't know what was going to happen at that time. We didn't know if projects were going to cancel. Nothing did, thankfully. They weren't huge money makers, that's for sure. But I think that it was stressful. I mean, you can't lie about that. You just weren't sure what was going to happen. So the unknowns can be stressful. You can't plan for them. The only thing you can plan for is that you have to be able to be ready to make a plan.
Make a plan and make a change.
Yeah.
What kind of messages did you give to your employees during that time, other than that initial, oh no, we're essential business, you have to come to work. But after that, what kind of, did you think about, I want to hold a certain culture here, or I want to make sure?
Culture was difficult to maintain because we had some people working out of the office and we had some people working in the office, but you weren't allowed to be together. We used to have like weekly team lunches, and like the CDC said, you're not allowed to gather and you're not allowed to share food. And so then birthdays, which I'm a big fan of. I love birthdays like a little kid. And it was like you had to celebrate your birthday by yourself in your office. Like, that's no fun. But the message I think that was very important, at least from the perspective that Stephen and I had, was that we were in the office every single day. Like, we were not going to be there. And so we did have team members that were uncomfortable, that wanted to be working from home. And if that was possible and we could set that up and have the right equipment and computers and printers and stuff for them, then we were behind that. I wanted people to be comfortable and feel safe. Because if you don't feel safe, then
you're not doing your best work.
You're not doing your best work, and you're not feeling good about your job, or you're not feeling good about keeping your family safe. And I wanted to make sure that they felt safe. But I would say that that was my first thing, is that we needed to be there. And I think I was stressed out, I think everyone was stressed out because you just want to watch out for people. And I'm a caretaker by nature, so I wanted to make sure everyone was okay. I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? They're probably like, shut up.
Leave me alone.
Go home for all goodness sakes.
Stop calling me.
Stop calling me. Yeah. But there were a lot of annoying things about it too. But I know we get sick of talking about it, but I think it's good to learn from it and understand what we went through and how people on the other side of it are now the way they are. And I think it's going to take some time, if at all, like how to get back to. Yeah,
you look at different generations, and you go all the way back and look at the agrarian generation before the Industrial Revolution. You kind of think about the big events for all these groups. It's easy to understand how their values package is different from the generation before them or the generation after them, because you see these things take place. It's easy to do that in a historical context. A little hard to do that in the moment. But you're right. We're at a place now where we can start to understand how maybe that will impact all of us. But, I think about, I don't know how, my daughter's 30. I don't know how.
Kimberly's 25.
Okay. So just
in a couple months. Yeah.
So, I think about that generation and how that will impact them and what it looked like to them and what they're doing.
Well, Kimberly's a school teacher. She's an intervention specialist for 3rd and 4th graders. And so these students were coming into school during the pandemic. And so it's tough. They don't, maybe they're not learning or have learned the way students have learned in the past. So they're learning differently. And so the teachers are working, in my opinion, so much harder.
Right.
Even though they've always worked harder than probably anyone else in the whole world.
Sure.
They're even working harder.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. It's stressful. And you see teachers leaving that field, and they're stressed out, and they don't get paid enough money. And
yeah, I think I read somewhere not long ago that the 2 industries that are hit the hardest with people leaving the field are nurses and teachers.
I would add in mental health counselors.
Yes, yeah.
Because I know that in talking to some people just through office renovations and such, is that they need more of them in their, like we were doing an office renovation for behavioral health, and they need more of them. They don't have enough to field the clients that they are getting.
Right.
So,
well, we're down to the end.
Thank God.
And we have 2 questions.
Okay.
That we call our 2-question lightning round.
Oh, boy.
So here's the first one.
Okay.
If you had a pet parrot.
I wouldn't.
Can I finish the question?
I'm just going to tell you I'm not a big fan of birds.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not either. But if you had a pet parrot, what would you teach it to say?
Have a good day.
Okay. And then the last question. What's your favorite cuss word?
Anyone who knows me knows what my favorite cuss word is.
My listeners don't know you, Julie.
I'm never going to say it on the air.
You have to.
I will not. There will never be a recording of me saying a cuss word.
Can you tell us what letter it starts with?
No, because I'm going to let my mother listen to this.
I'm going to guess your mother already knows.
No, she does not.
Oh, doesn't she really?
I would not say it in front of her. Come on. My mother is like the sheer angel, like this little angel.
You may be the only guest that has
never
not,
cussed?
who's never cussed.
Can't do it. It's on recording. My mother said never put anything in writing and don't ever let anyone record you saying cuss words on podcasts.
I don't think your mother even knows what a podcast is.
Oh, she
Come on.
does. She heard my last one. She said
okay.
it was so good.
What did she? She's going to hear this one.
And she's going to think you're ridiculous.
She won't be the only one.
She's going to say, who is this Ned guy?
Thanks for being on, Julie.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us today for this wide-ranging conversation, which is one of the things we kind of pride ourselves with on that. We certainly come in with a topic and then we kind of let it go with our guests, and this one is no exception. So we're glad you stayed with us, and tune in for the next one. Thanks.
You have been listening to the Value Bridge podcast, a monthly 45 minutes or less of pithy, relevant, and helpful advice on everything business.